Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Good
I
morning.
hear you, Nisi. Yep.
Awesome. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our final masterclass. I am glad we have come to the end of the road. It's such an amazing journey that we have together. Today's masterclass is dedicated in a very something that is dear to me, which is basically discussing an important topic to all our my sisters around the world. Whether you're in Canada, you're in South Sudan, you're in Nairobi, you're in Kenya, or you're in Europe or South America, or this topic is very important. It's going to be discussing about a woman in business and leadership thriving in a global economy, how we can learn, earn, and grow. Without further ado, please, I welcome you all. If you're listening to these conversations for our on-demand masterclass, I would say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And please let us dive towards this last masterclass. And on behalf of Avise Digital, I would want to thank you all for being a part of this masterclass series. And also, we want to thank our partners from Excellence Foundation for South Sudan for being a key element for us bringing this masterclass into action. So we thank you all for being a part of this journey and for being a this part of these collaborations. This is not the end. We will continue to have more masterclass in the future. We will announce all of this information in our upcoming email marketing blast. So if you wanted to join us to get updated and when our next masterclass is going to be held, make sure to go to our website at www.avesdigital.com, or you can also email us at info@avesdigital.com. Without further ado, let us dive into today's lessons, which is basically in the next slide where it says women in leadership thriving in a global economy. So in the next class, as I mentioned to you guys, I was gonna discuss about this topic because today we are diving into one of my favorite topic, and as your facilitator, it's an exciting insight to be able to empower you to lead you and through the growth and impact on how my journey as a woman in business and in a leadership role, as well as how we're thriving and what are some information that are out there that can help you guys, especially if you're a female currently trying to navigate through your career professions, or you're even tapping into the entrepreneurial industry. You might need to learn some of these aspects. So grab your pen and paper, coffee, or whatever have you, and let's get it started. If you can go to next slide, please. So in today's session, first of all, we are going to have Shinke to basically talk a little bit more about herself and some of the work that she does. And then we are going to cover the global overview of women in business, as well as we're going to talk about the challenges and opportunity and leadership traits for success and how you can build leadership brand and thriving in the global economy. Then we will also have Q&A session when if time progress. Yeah. Without further ado, please, I welcome on the stage Shinke to discuss more about her role here as a project manager, as well as some of her experience working as a caseworker for mental health sector. Yeah, so Shinke, take it away in the next slide.
Hi, I'm Shinke. I've been supporting Nisi Lexi by, leading the projects at Avise Digital, focusing on digital marketing strategy and campaign execution. So from the beginning of, Avise Digital and supporting Nisi Lexi, so I've been reviewing, the actual textual material for interviews and for blogs and, making sure things are run smoothly and making sure our material is accurate. So for our Nisi Lexi folks who, read our material and watch the interviews, making sure that things go well. And I'm in part of this this masterclass series. So helping to, run these slideshows and um, making sure to guide Nisi as, through the presentations. Um, I've also, so this is one part of my uh, work life, and then I also work in the mental health sector. So I support folks who in the mental health population. So I support right now, I've been doing case management, which is, you know, identifying clients' goals and figuring out the resources and connecting clients to those resources and then supporting them in transitioning out of case management. So when they're ready to complete service. Uh, and so, yeah, it's in terms of my career path. I mean, it was a few years of school and and then it's been about 6 years. It will be almost seven in 2026 of May that I've been in this field, the mental health sector, and just been building myself as frontline worker and hoping to build further, and hopefully with some of the project management experience that I've completed through Avise Digital and Nisi Lexi, that I can, take myself further, use leadership, problem solving, and organizational skills and taking it to a further level. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Amazing. Thank you, Shinke. Yeah, Shinke has been really a key pioneer for a lot of the stuff that we do here, both on Avise Digital or at Nisi Lexi. She really championed us to deliver some of these masterclass. And a lot of times it's like, especially when we talk about women in leadership, it's not always like the women that are in the front line that you see them in the front that actually do most of the work. There's a lot of strong women behind the scene that are basically putting in hours contribution to making sure that the success of these programs and projects are coming into place. So Shinka is, for example, one of those key things that we have at the company that help us to deliver those sessions. So we are very thankful for her contribution. We're very thankful for all the stuff that she does for us. And apart from her just, being the project manager, she's also very a key in finding like other events where we attend, being the international voice advocate for finding certain women related conversations or conferences that we normally attend, because that's where we also as a leaders we need to be able to, like, study, collaborate, and networking. So she plays a big role in that. And one thing I wanted Shinke to also kind of like share with you guys is like, because she is also in the mental health sector, so she has a lot of experience with what it means like to take care of yourself, to take care of your body. And a lot of times it's like, especially us a woman who are in the leadership role or working in like as an entrepreneurs or in the 9 to 5 kind of corporate world, there is so much of leadership involved. But what does that mean to us when we talk about, like, women leaderships? Something that I want to, maybe she can elaborate on her own voice. And how can we also make sure that we are doing certain exercises to keep our mental health in check? Because one thing we don't talk about it a lot especially in the corporate world, is like, how do you manage that stress work? How do you um you know just kind of finding a holistic harmony between work-life balance and things like that. So I'll have her talk about that before we're diving in deeper into the conversation.
Oh, sorry there, I'm unmuted. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, working in health care and social work, like well, particularly mental health field, it's a lot of work, dealing with, different people and the challenges that they're having. And so self-care, it's a constant must. Sometimes in society people think, oh, self-care like it's like has to be something luxurious or it has to be fancy or whatever. But it's not fancy at all. So self-care is just it's like recharging your battery so that to keep yourself and to keep yourself going and making sure that you're taking care of yourself, making sure that you're taking care of yourself, um, and identifying. So what is it that helps to keep you well? And that can be anything from, going for a walk to, lighting a candle and doing meditation, or it can be taking a warm bath to journaling, art. And so because of that importance of self-care and empowerment learning, I help with finding a lot of events that Nisi and I attend so that, we can build that part of our life as well and focus on that component. So it's not just the business and just the work, but also how for us to help take care of ourselves so that we keep ourselves going and provide the greatest of material for our folks, our viewers, those who go on watch Lexi's material, um, and YouTube and TikTok and the folks that engage with the social media. And then I had realized the importance of this actually when I thought to myself, okay, like work and home, that like it's just those two. But realizing that the intellectual stimulation is so important. So, keeping alive those passions and interests that we have and looking for outlets to, you know, gain back some of that clarity and help us to move forward, not only in our work life, but our personal life as well. You see her there?
Yes, thank you
Okay.
so much, Shinke, for sharing that. And the importance of, mental health and also like I just understanding how to take care of yourself. It's like taking care of your mind, body, spirit, as well as like corporate aspect of it. Yeah, so Shinke, really, really great to have you and also to add in a very, very important key element as we dive into this conversation for women leadership. I feel like before we talk about the work, it's always good to talk about the mind. It's always good to check in with our mental health and then how we can become a strong and then kind of dabbling into the industry to be able to become a strong leaders. And that's why I feel like you were such a good person to bring on this conversation today before we go further. So thank you so much, Shinke, for all of that informative and negative knowledge that you have shared with us. If we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so today's learning outcome, we're going to talk about discover what it takes to thrive and lead in today's global business landscape. And then we're also going to learn about strategy to build influence, confidence, and long-term success. And then real stories and insights that also Shinke share her own experience. And then we also can dabble into like, networking with other ambitious women and entrepreneurs and those kind of things. Next slide. Yeah. So now let's talk about women in the global business landscape. So what does that actually mean, for a context? What does that actually uh attribute to? So in the next slide, when we talk about just in the global landscape of things, right? So women leaders who embrace technology, global thinking, and digital agility gain a competitive advantage, you know. And globalization has expanded business beyond just borders, you know, creating new opportunities for collaborations on cross cultures and leaderships. So, and then another thing is also remote work becoming very common, especially like post pandemic or during the pandemic. Most companies, because they couldn't open their doors for physical contact, they decided to all go work online. And that's why people like myself in the tech industry would thrive during that period by working remotely, you know. I know in the healthcare sector where Shinke mainly work on, they have to still continuously do the in-person visit, but with kind of limitation or restrictions. And also element part of that healthcare system, they still were doing some remote work, if I'm correct, Shinke. There were still that remote work aspect of things like, you know, to shape like how you guys were doing. And it has really like remote work has really shaped workplace dynamic, allowing women to gather access to global roles, flexibility in schedule, and also like having that hybrid leadership structure. And then when we talk about the global transformation, we talk about the continuance to disrupt into industry. So requiring you to have like new skills, data-driven decision making, and as well as like enabling innovations. So that's how we talk about it. In the next slide, we can also talk about like, you know, women risking rising in the emerging market. So, you know, especially when we look at data from markets basically in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, we are experiencing a rapid economic expansions, and women are basically stepping into leadership at unprecedented rate. You know, these are numbers that hasn't been seen before. And there's also an increased access to like education, entrepreneurship programs, and tech ecosystem, basically accelerating like women involvement. And these regions is basically as a fertile ground for innovation, cross-border partnerships, and women-led enterprise. Even in Canada here, like recently, me and Shinka attended the Obsidian uh, Be Future 2025 conference, and some of the banks, like big banks here we have in Toronto or in Canada and why they have a specific like women in business or women in tech, like, you know, programs. So you can see like, you know, some corporations actually are helping with that innovations and helping with that expansion of like, you know, supporting more women to emerge in these technical roles and you know environment where they can expand their leadership roles and things like that. And me myself being in the tech industry for the last I would say 7 to 8 years, I had the opportunity for, you know, growing my career journey pathway from just working as an accounting strategist to going to project trainers at Google formerly, and then working as a PPC strategist, subject matter experts, and then now later on now moving into like an associate director level. This all came in as of just, you know, an opportunity just being in the industry and also continuously learning, continuously networking, and just having that mindset of like constantly want to grow and constantly having that entrepreneurial aspect of, you know, mindset, especially to grow in the emerging role that we're talking about it. In the next slide, let's just also kind of discuss with like women in the global business landscape. What does that look like in terms of like numbers? When we're looking at the figures, you know, women are increasingly shaping the future of business while representing the top you know, remaining limited. So women-led ventures are becoming like very prominent, providing some of the most creative, resilient, and social responsible in the world. So when we look at the numbers, women own over 30% of the global business, you know, but hold less than 10% of the top CEO roles. This thing is actually what kind of bothers me for a very long time. I know when I was at university, took the one of the first course that I took for business was collaborative leaderships. And I know the only conversation we were having about women being on top on the C-suite level, it was the only person that I knew at the time that they mentioned a lot during that class was either Oprah or the Pepsi CEO. I think she's from India, but she was like the CEO of Pepsi. Those were the two figures at the time that was like at the C level that we were prominent. But then now we notice that there's a lot of like CEOs. Like for example, we have founders like Rihanna with her Fenty Beauty. We have Skims like Kim Kardashian with her um outfit lines. There's just so many women right now, even like the Huda Beauty, being an example of a very successful woman who own businesses. So these changes are like, women are now tapping in more, but I'm just saying, even with those numbers of women becoming more entrepreneur mind, there still is less than 10% of the CEO roles out there, the 10%. So there's more opportunity for us to actually tap into those industry. So women-led companies often outperform in innovation and sustainability. That means we actually do things, and then growth for women entrepreneurs is the strongest in Africa and Asia. And one thing also resonates, especially like when I look at like some of my aunties or some of like, we can relate like whether it's Asia or Africa, is that most of the household responsibility is taken by women, and even when it talks about like side hustles or, growing up seeing like women around me would go out and sell products, or especially in the school in the morning when we go to school, we would see like some of them like be selling like the tea and a little bit of a snack to students. These are just basically women hustling to make end meet. But that is basically what the kind of the initial spark of kind of me seeing like women actually tapping into the whole business side of things, even though it was like a business at a small scale, but it's like they are contributing to the economic growth and things like that to support their family. But with more education, with more opportunity, I believe like women can go further and can be having more resilient and thriving. The other thing in the next slide is that the four rules of current roles in the workforce. So women are contributing significantly to the GDP, but remain underrepresented in leadership. So we are contributing a lot to the GDP of most countries, but still we're being underrepresented in the leadership roles. And then also barriers. So a lot of gender stereotype or limited fundings, work-life balance challenges can also be a contribution to that. And then also celebrating progress. So more women founders or girls are entering STEMs and also rising to the remote leadership. So that's where kind of giving us more opportunity. And when we go to the next slide, I'm gonna talk more about like the skills for women leaders in 2025 and beyond. Like, what does that look like, right? So when we talk about the leaders from 2025 and beyond, let me just kind of talk about the ability to leverage AI and automation, analytics, and digital tools, like staying current with emerging technologies, making data-driven decision and making digital leadership transformation with confidence. That's basically what we talk about when we talk about digital literacy and data skills. Other area we can also adaptive leadership. So navigating uncertainty, like global shifting and fast-facing change industry. I would say also adjusting to like a strategy quickly based on like new trends, leading hybrid teams and remote talent. Thriving in basic and unpredicted environment is how we can be more adaptive into that leadership roles. And then when we talk about strategic thinking and vision, we're talking about like seeing beyond just the present and anticipated future needs, like setting long-term directions that tie with innovations and growth, and also like turning challenges into strategic opportunity where we can communicate clear and inspire visions. And then let's talk also about the culture and intelligence and global mind. With that one, I would say it's like working across border cultures and also diversify like the market, understanding that global business has adequate and leading multinationals or multicultural teams, and also like building connections in emerging markets. Like for example, me and Shinke being here in Canada, but it's still collaborating with people in South Sudan and in Kampala and Uganda with deliver masterclass across all East Africa. That is kind of giving us that opportunity with, working with the culture intelligence, doing a global market mindset and things like that, being so aware of like what's happening around the globe, and then kind of like, using our technology understanding and focus to be able to tap into those market and having that global partnerships and things like that. And in the next slide, I would say in the next slide, I would say that barriers that facing women in leaderships. So when we talk about barriers facing women in leadership, we're talking about gender bias and confidence gap, So despite progress, barriers exist, especially around bias across like to capitals when women wanted to get fundings, women wanted to get scale their businesses, and also that work-life balance. A lot of them are facing that. So the goal isn't just to highlight the issue, but also to find ways to how we can rise above them. I know with with strategy, with confidence and support. So the gender bias and confidence gap. So women's skills are often undervalued and questioned when in the corporate world. And many talented women and are getting underestimated with the abilities due to like societal like conditioning, That's actually one of the key thing when it comes to like gender-based a bias. And then pay gap and limited access to capital. Women is still are earning less than men for most countries that I know of. And for the same roles that a man would work, women are still getting paid less, especially in the senior positions, in the leadership roles. And then women entrepreneurs also receive significantly less funding and facing tougher approval processes. When some women who would go to the bank when they want to get like lending and funding, they tend to not get so much fundings because of lack of that bias and confidence gap, and then also lack of mentorship and networking. I feel like some women also might fear especially in the top roles, they have like a fewer mentorships, fewer like readers rising, and many professional networking remain still male dominated. When we go to networking, even like in the most recent one, Shinka can attest to that. There were quite number of male that attended that conference as opposed to women, and that is also something that we really, kind of see it when we go to events, and even when we sign up to like networking event and things like that. Very few women actually turn around and show up to these things. Even with this masterclass that we basically offer for the last 3 months, there's about 10% of the students that sign up are basically women. 90% are male, is because that also that's where like the number of gapping and opportunities missed there. If you go to the next slide, please. The other thing is that also we need to also focus on balancing professional and personal responsibilities. So what does that mean? Women often carry both career and home expectations, and because of that, they might actually experience burnout. They might actually feel like they need to, split themselves into two and split their attention into, the home life balance as well as like, professional balance. This also kind of limits their time for networking and doing like career development or doing any leadership opportunity because they have other responsibilities to focus on, especially if some of these, like recently I've been discussing having conversation with some women that are in Australia and in Kenya and whatnot. A lot of them are working moms. And one of the key things that commonly I see across board was that they are trying to balance raising kids as well as trying to either, you know, further their quick career, going back to school and doing the study so that they can be able to gain more uh, updated skills so that they can further their career and get more like, raise in their salary, what have you. So see, these are some of the struggle that they're facing, just first hearing talking to them and speaking to them. And then the other thing with the next slide is that stereotypes and culture expectation. Diversity isn't just a trend, it's a business advantage. When women are taken giving opportunity to take the table, um like business, they make more balance and innovation decision. We bring in empathy and collaborations and vision when when women work together. That's what they bring to the table. So diversity and inclusion in the leadership is key important. And I would say uh some women might also feel like they have the pressure to be likable and be polite and not assertive, because as soon as some of them start to speaking or start to like having pushback on certain things, people might be like, ah, she's such a, strong word, or they might start daggering into her personality for being assertive and being labeled as somebody who's hard to work with or very difficult to work with, when simply that woman might be just passionate about the project and wanted things to be done the right way, and is speaking up for things that, especially when the processes are not in place, then she will be labeled as that. And I feel like this is something that we need to kind of like demise. We need to kind of cut off like that stereotypical expectation and the culture aspect of it. If we're gonna be excelling as women in the lead as a leaders, we need to be able to like not feel like we always need to be liked, but we need to be deliver our work with confidence without feeling the need to to kind of dial down our skills or dial down our expertise and things like that. So culture norms, that's something that we need to can discourage women from like leadership or taking risk. The next slide also like diversity and exclusion in leadership. So diverse team make more decisions. So like for example, 80% of the time, based on Harvard studies, has shown that like when you have more women involved in certain decision and certain teams tend to succeed because there's more diversity, more different voices are coming in. And in exclusion drive creativity and innovations. And female leaders also foster towards empathy driven culture. So whenever there is aspect of that in workplace, you tend to see that there's more and more successes happening in team across the board. The next slide, I'm also going to talk about like traits for successful women in leadership. So most of the women that are thriving in successes or like in their leadership role, they tend to have emotional intelligence, they tend to be resilient, they tend to be also visionary and collaboration. These are the four aspects of trait that if you want to be a strong leader as a woman, you need to possess that. So let me break it down on what that actually mean in terms of like one by one. So if we go to the next slide, where it says emotional intelligence, when we talk about emotional intelligence, we're talking about successful women leaders often excel in emotional intelligence. So they have the ability to understand, manage, and express emotion effectively from a woman leadership lens. Okay. And then women naturally lean in into empathy, which helps them to like build trust and psychological like safety within teams. And these are basically skills at reading the rooms and also navigating with complex interpersonal dynamics. So we women able to kind of like understand how we can work with different personality, with different team members and things like that. And when you have emotional intelligence, it enables you as a woman leader to balance compassion with accountability, guiding the team through like change and clarity and care. And also this trait also helps empower them by handling like conflict, providing constructive criticism, and also lead with authenticity. That's basically what that is. And that's why if you're thinking of becoming a leader or having that leadership mindset as a woman, I believe like the first thing you need to working on that emotional intelligence is going to be a key thing. In the next slide, let's talk about resilience. So most top CEOs in the world, the key thing that they have is being resilient. Resilient is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, adapt to challenges, and stay focused on when facing adversity, right? So resilient is basically when you are a woman having in the leadership role, women leaders often face additional hurdles. The hurdles that I mentioned earlier, the stereotypes, the bias, the balancing in multiple roles, which builds like, mental strength and also determinations. The other thing is the resilience is reflected in their problem solving skills, the ability to stay calm under pressures and communicate to, being committed to long term goals. And also, these women have the understanding on how to turn obstacle into opportunities, guys. And setbacks are also used to fuel like growth. This trait makes women leaders especially more effective when it comes to crisis management and high stress environment. That's basically why they need to be resilient, and that resiliency what helps them to, to be able to have that crisis management skills and also work in a high stress environment. The third thing when it comes to leadership trait that this woman possess is visions. When we talk about vision, is that vision is the ability to see like a bigger picture and also inspire growth and share future from a women leadership lens. So women leaders often lead with purpose and value, shaping visions that are rooted in exclusivity, impact, and sustainability, right? They excel at aligning the team around common missions and communication directions with clarity and passion. And when we talk about visionary women leaders, we talk about women that are prioritizing like long term thinking, community impact, and ethical leaderships, right? So their forward thinking approach helps them to encourage like innovations and culture of continuous like improvement within organizations. That's why they need to have a visionary woman leader in the team in order to achieve that. And lastly, I would say the other trait that in the next slide that these women possess is collaborations, And when we talk about collaborations, collaboration basically is the ability to like unite people, encourage participations, and leveraging like collective strengths from the woman's leadership lens. So women tend to lead with core what's it called, cooperative mindsets, like valuing teamwork over hierarchy, whatever, right? And then also they naturally foster like environment where diverse voices are heard and also respected and incorporated into like decision making things. And collaborative women leaders tend to break silos, they build a strong like cross-functional relationships and uplift others along the way. And I would say lastly, it's like this trait also help to strengthen like the inclusivity, boost like morale as well as like often lead to a higher performing team. And that's why you see like this type of collaborations is very, very key when it comes to like in a leadership roles and kind of growing teams and things like that. And I would say lastly, just continuously learning. That's one key thing as a woman leader. In the next slide is that we need to always continue learning, because the more you learn, the more you earn. That's the key ingredients. And continuous learning is the commitment to your personal growth, both your professional growth, and staying curious, is staying being open to change. Things are always changing. Like 5 years ago, nobody was talking about artificial intelligence. Nobody cared about what AI was doing. But right now, it's becoming prominent across the board. Whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in tech, whether you're anywhere, you need some aspect of artificial intelligence. So, as a woman leader, you're gonna move with the trend. You're gonna have to learn what's happening around you. What are some technology that are becoming like the future of things? Making sure that you're continuously learning. Women leaders often prioritize learning as a tools of breaking barriers, building credibility and also staying ahead in competitive spaces. They actively seek like mentorship, professionalism, and industry certifications, new skills to leverage their leadership capacity, continuously just like learning, empowering to navigate like evolving in the market and emerging into like technologies and shifting workplace dynamic. And I would say by modeling this growth, they inspire their team to develop themselves and create culture. Even right now, for my team specifically, I encourage them to always go find like events within the area of expertise, and we're constantly having like a lunch and learn where we would learn about like the updates in the marketing industry. What is the in, what is the out, what are some certification do we need to update and things like that. Because the more you're staying ahead of the current and the more you stay learning what's happening, the better it is gonna make you as strong in the industry, and then you will always constantly not worry about whether your job is gonna go away or not. And I would say, lastly, just in the next slides, that building leadership brand is that, especially when you becomes to like a woman who owns a brand, you want to always focus on defining your value and strength, and you want to also focus on like building visibility through like storytelling and developing expertise in your niche, and also make sure that your network with intentional through like LinkedIn and industry event space and things like that. That will help you so much. And in the next slide, also thriving in the global economy, I would say embracing technology and digital skills is going to be such a key for you. It doesn't matter what industry you are in, make sure that is part of your growth. And then collaborations across like culture, thinking globally and act like locally, that is also going to be really, really great for you in terms of growth. And I would say, like, lastly, is just like building that digital presence, making sure you are present online, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on Facebook. Have these media, especially if you wanted to build your personal brand, you need to be present online, because people nowadays don't really rely on business card. They will rely mostly on your digital business card, and your digital business card is your social media presence. What are you posting? What are you talking about there? Are you a subject matter expert? What some contents? Are you consistent with delivering high value informations online for your community or for your audience? Those are things that people care about, as opposed to just your business card and logo. Okay. And inspiring stories, some of the stories that you can also like go and read about it. In the next slide is like Ngozi, she's like the director of general Wuto. And then there's also Whitney, she's like a founder of Bumble. And basically these are some women that you can read about their stories. And then also the founder of Soho Rebels in Ethiopia. These are basically amazing, amazing women that you can find. Before I move into the next slide, which is the work life harmony, always focus on trying to balance boundaries, prioritize self-care, and delegating and empowering others. This is going to be really, really key for you. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So self-leadership starts with taking care of yourself, your mental health, your emotions, and your physical health. And that's something that Shinka has covered it earlier on, talk about the work-life balance, as well as taking care of yourself and make sure that you have that. um the next slide, have any questions before we move forward? Anybody want to ask questions? And welcome to the party, Nibo. Amazing. Okay, any question, guys, or should I move next? Perfect. We can move to
Yeah, hi Nisi. Sorry, I was speaking. I didn't know I was mute.
hi, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Do you have
I
any
think it's a great.
question?
Yeah, I have a question, but it actually mine is not a question, but it's just about it's like a point on what you said earlier,
Yeah.
right? For example, about being everywhere. I think a lot of things we've been discussing are super great, and
Yeah.
they are things we actually come into space, especially in the leadership space. Things to do with fundraising. People will give you less money just because, right? And
Yeah.
then you did mention something about social media, and I think what it's very, very important to be on social media. But actually,
Mhm.
I'm at a point where I think I'm going to do a little of the opposite. I want to be strategic about it though, because
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like social media, or for me right now, it has become so toxic in such a way that there's certain
Mhm.
social media platforms like, let's say, Twitter, that
Mhm.
I'm trying to slowly cut back on, right? Even I think I've already cut back on Facebook and
Yeah.
things like that. And I'm just, I maybe if we, for me, it's much more about probably now strategically, what do I think works for me? For example,
Yeah.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
sure does work for me, but things like Twitter, I want to cut back on that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think I don't know, and this is going to be an experiment for me, but I
Mhm.
sort of want to like just do YouTube, right? And
Mhm.
I guess maybe my priorities have changed. It's no longer about the numbers of like how many people are following me, but probably the quality of like even if I have 500 people following me, but they are actual clients who can buy or who can sort of support the work I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right. So I know that might be a little detrimental, and I don't know it's going to be an experiment, but I'm trying to cut on certain social media spaces, I guess.
Yeah. And just
So,
before
so probably YouTube and LinkedIn.
Amazing, Newbo. Just before I go ahead and I kind of like answer your questions and the statement that you mentioned, let
Yeah.
me just give you your flower and shout out. Newbo has been really an amazing woman, especially working on the mental health sector with the refugee women's in Uganda. She has a foundation where she helps and run workshops. So if anybody is interested who are listening to this, interested to know more about what she does and how she does, make sure to go to her social media and follow her. And especially anyone who might come across this video later on as we stream it and interested to learn more about the refugee women mental health workshops and informations, she's the lady to go to. And yeah, Newell, you can just basically take 1 minute to explain some of the work that you guys do, and then I will talk about the social media aspect of things.
All right. Thank you so much, Nisi. And hi, everyone. So my name is Nibol Rachel. I'm passionate. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry. Someone
Hear
is
you.
trying to call me. Let me text them to say not to call.
no worries.
Or try to put yourself on mute. Sometimes I forget, but I do that during work time.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Silent.
Yeah.
What did you say I should do?
Oh, putting it on silent, the phone.
Uh, oh, no, it's the same phone that I'm using. So it's sort of, it
Oh,
might cut me off. Yeah, but I've texted them. Um, so yeah, my name is Nibol Rachel. I lead a mental health nonprofit in Uganda called Refugee Mental Health Network. And we are a nonprofit organization that provides mental health education, awareness, support, and advocacy for refugee communities, most especially women and young people that struggle with mental health challenges like depression, anxiety, post traumatic stress disorder as a result of forced displacement, sexual violence, and gender based violence. So, most of the work that we do is in the grassroots and it's free. People don't really pay for it, but as part of what we try to do to diversify or to sort of have sustainability is now we're sort of on an income generating spiral where we sort of do certain things. We still employ people in the community to sort of produce certain things and we sell, and the proceeds support the mental health work of the organization, but also creates employment for people in the refugee space. So, yeah, basically, that's what we do as an organization. But personally, I'm passionate about mental health. I have a YouTube channel called Mental Health with Nibol, although I haven't been very active in the last couple of months, actually this whole year. But I guess with me sort of restructuring and becoming very strategic about how I want to present out there, I guess I'll probably start producing more content. Yeah, basically that's what I do and that's what we do.
Amazing. Thank you, Nibble, for sharing that. I feel like that gives more context as to why you were basically also working to limit your focus and your use of social media and where you have to. And I think you're very right, um, social media especially when we talked about it in a masterclass 2 and 3, we discussed about not only like building personal brand but also knowing which social media medium can you use to make sure that it's more effective for your business, sometimes it's great to be everywhere, but when you are everywhere, is your audience there, right? So a key ingredient, when especially for you, Nibal, is like maybe Twitter space is not where a lot of your clientels are going to be, or a lot of the people that should be consuming your information is going to be. So what I would do, I would use those other medium as like a side, as like kind of like, a ghost hub. So for me personally, because of the work that I do, I tend to get most of my clients are actually coming in from email marketing, from LinkedIn, and going into doing like workshops with the colleges and things like that. But I use my social media just to be posting, but I'm hardly there. And there's a lot of other tools that I use behind the scene where I would repurpose one. Let's say I have a post of video that recently you guys are seeing. I would have one video where it's like if it's a 1 minute to 2 minutes long, I would use our project management tools to post this content across all social media. That's like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and what have you. But that does not necessarily mean I am on that platform, even though I am showing up there with those video content, but I am not physically there in that app just because I know if I go there, I'm going to be wasting my time and things like that. So I would just be using it to provide and deliver information to just be existing there, but not where I would spend majority of my time. We can talk offline on how you can set that up, and that would help you basically to minimize, you being on that app specifically. For me personally, I have deleted my Facebook Messenger. I am not there. If somebody DM me, they get an automated reply for me. It's not me who's responding to them. And on TikTok, I am very present because I'm building a community of people, a content creator on that platform. And then on LinkedIn, that's basically my professional bread and butter where I'm there constantly. YouTube is my number one, and then LinkedIn and everything else just kind of falls in the bucket. Snapchat, I'm hardly there. I would never actually trying to be there presently. But yeah, I definitely understand you when it comes to like dialing it down and just being more strategic on how you post and how you spend a lot of your time. Because at the end of the day, when you are trying to build a brand and you're trying to excel, you also need to take back. You need to know like what sort of things can I automate and what sort of thing do I need to manually be there and doing it physically. Yeah. So that's are the things, the feedback that I would say to you about regarding shifting the focus.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nisi. I guess offline we should definitely speak about the email marketing aspect of things because I think so far that's not what I have done, but I think I also have such a rich network via email,
Yeah.
and I could find a way to sort of use it and then just because I believe you sort of own your email list. It's not like social
Yeah.
media platforms where algorithms keep changing. Yeah, so I guess maybe one of the next series we should do should be about email marketing.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely there's a lot of like tools out there for the email marketing. For example, we have the email opticus, that's one thing. And then there's like MailChimp. There is even like within my website itself, the how we built our website. We have an AI in our website that does all our email automatically and sends out like information, especially when we write like blogs, it would automatically, sends out email and things like that. So yeah, these are some things that we do. When it comes to the whole general aspect of like email marketing, I can run another workshops in the future, and where I can discuss like what are different tools of email marketing that we use and the success rate. And I will also kind of discuss with you the free version versus the paid versions and the differences that they have. And I think that will be really, really beneficial to you, Nibel, for your business.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're gonna move to the next slide where we can discuss further on the women leadership roles and things like that. If you can go to the next slide, Shinka, please. Yeah, so how to excel at work as a woman, that is basically the key questions we have here. We wanted to break into our industry profession, whether we wanted to excel in the leadership role or whether we wanted to in the future to kind of like, open our own businesses and things like that. We need to focus on some key elements, right? So if you go into the next slide, some of these key element kind of comes with like owning your confidence. And one thing that I had to learn like the hard way, especially being in the corporate world, is that if you're not confident, people will overshadow you or will undermining some of your stuff. Even if you're doing such an amazing job, confidence will speak in itself, right? The confidence on the work that you do, confidence on the how you speak will give people get to respect you. Or sometimes people might undermine you. Even you just changing some words or how you deliver things will make a big impact on how people actually perceive you in the workplace. And speaking with clarity, even when you're still learning, that also kind of part of that confidence. And also sometimes taking credit for your work. Don't downplay your achievement. I do not um recommend any person to like humble, they're gonna be, because culturally we are trained to, to just kind of like be humble, not to like, be so boast about the stuff that we do. But in the workplace, you need to take credit of your work, because especially when it comes to negotiating your salary, when it comes to negotiating or kind of like putting proposal and putting project in place, they need to see what have you done, what are some of your achievements, and if you're done playing your credits, how do you expect them to know when they can actually promote you, right? Or when they can actually give you a shout out or whatever. So never downplay your work that you do or the effort of stuff that you do. And also trying to change the language and how you use on how you talk to certain leadership, when especially when you're having meeting, especially when, let's say, you wanted to offer recommendations or you wanted to offer suggestions in team projects and things like that. Always say, like, even in the email language that you're sending out, say like, oh, I would recommend you doing this X, Y, and Z, and instead of say, oh, I think maybe this is that and da da da. So that's some of the stuff that I would say is think, instead of say, I think maybe we should try this, say, I would recommend this or I would suggest this. That's how you would use that language. And then in the next slides, go to the next slide, please. Building a personal brand. Be known for something you're expert at. And as you know, like, whatever the expertise that you're good at, you have been working in the industry for 5 years, you're really good at that, you're a subject matter expert. Build your personal brand around that. And also your problem you're trying to solve. What are some issues that are happening within your community, within your thing? Try to solve that. Even at work, what are some problems that is happening and how can you solve it? And maybe you become a leadership for that particular aspect of your job to solve that problem. Showcase your work on LinkedIn, in meetings, throughout your presentations. When you're getting an opportunity to speak, always take that opportunity to speak, because one of my mentors said to me, she's like, closed mouth is a closed blessing. If you speak up, people will know how they can put you, especially when they're having a private conversation to give grants, or they're having private conversation to promote you. If you're not speaking on those meetings, how would they know about you? You always have to put yourself out there, so that way people can actually recognize you. When opportunity comes, they will be able to put you first in mind or first in line. Dress and present yourself in a way that you reflects your ambition. Not all of us need to look like baddies and dress like baddies, but you can always pick something that makes more sense to you, and that becomes your personal brand. And then you do it the way you feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, it's about your own personal confidence. Okay. And then in the next slide, so develop a growth mindset. And one thing, key thing, especially when you want to grow as a woman leader, is always be curious, curious to learn, to gain new skills, to learn about different technology that are out there, testing different things, seeking out training, mentorship, and stress your assignments. And also replace like, I can't do this, but I want to learn this. Majority of the women leaders that are thriving in this industry, those are the people that refuse to give up. The moment you say, okay, I know enough, you are not going to progress in life. But the moment you say, wow, I actually want to learn this, I want to expand this, that's when you will have the opportunity to actually grow. And even my own father, he said to me growing up that when you walk in certain rooms, don't always tell people you know more, because the person that you're sitting with might know something that you never know, right? And if you are saying you know enough, then you're blocking your blessing, because that person might have taught you something new. So give that other people an opportunity to teach you something, because you can bring something to the table and they can bring something to the table that you've never seen it before. So always be open mind with learning and growing. The next slide. Set clear boundaries and things like that, especially in the workplace. Sometimes you might come across like toxic workplace or whatever that is. Protect your time and energy. Avoid brand out. You also want to have that work-life balance, and you also want to have that whenever certain corporation here, they give you like wellness days and things like that. Take those days, go recharge, come back stronger, you know Work will always be there, and don't feel like you need to break your back for the work, because at the end of the day, if all the money that you're making, you never take rest, you never take care of your body, and now you end up in a hospital, and that money that you earn all your life is not actually helping you with getting better. So why not, take care of your body, because your health is also wealth. Make sure you take care of your body. Building um building a powerful network. Connect with other women, mentors and allies. Join professional association, networking and communities. Collaborate, instead of competing. I would always say, especially as a content creator, the content creating business right now is at a $1 trillion market industry. There's opportunity for everybody. It's not a competition. We, instead of competing, we should be collaborating, so that way we can cross network, we can help each other grow and things like that. That's what we need. Majority of the successful people. That's why you see big brands like Google, they collaborate, they always do partnership with other companies. That's how they grow. When you look at the Alpha, as a corporation, they have Gmail, they have Google, they have YouTube, they have all these different businesses that came together to form Alpha. And then when you look at Meta, Meta has WhatsApp, has Facebook, has Messenger, has Instagram. All of these came together to form Meta. That's called collaborations, or bringing different things to make sure that they have a mega company or a mega team or mega things, right? So these are things that you always need to take into consideration, is that collaboration will help you go far in life. Next slide. So you speak up in meetings. I already talked about this. So don't wait to be called or share your point of view early. Always speak up. If somebody talks over you, especially, you would notice that when you are working in like a male dominated industry, sometimes, when you start to speak or talk, or like, certain things, people might not give you the opportunity to speak, so they might cut you off. Always be calm and kind of reclaim that. Be like, you can be politely say, I'm not finished, and kind of, continue. Because if you dominate your presence and you're making sure that, they give you and respect your time to speak, always take that, always make it very clear. And always, when you're in a meeting, prepare at least 2 to 3 key points to talk about it in every meeting, because that shows that you're prepared, that shows that you know what you're talking about, and that shows that you're taking accountability. So whenever there's opportunity for growth, opportunity for leadership, people will always look to talk to you and always look to give you opportunities and doors and grants and things like that. So keep that in mind. Next slide. So document your wins. So sometimes something that you can also do is like keep a weekly records of like achievement, matrix, and contribution. Sometimes this thing is not for you to kind of like, highlight and brag about it, but this is kind of to show yourself. I feel like psychologically, when you start to record some of your win, it will help boost your self-confidence. It will start to help you realize like, okay, I'm really good at this, and there is certain area of my life that I'm not good at. Where can I go and learn more, and become better, and where am I actually good at? Because it will basically document your successes and win. And that's something as a digital marketer we always do. Whenever we run a campaign, we do post report, and this post report is basically talking about the wins, the losses, the challenges, and how can we do better. And if you're not keeping records of the achievement, if you're not keeping record of the things that you do, how do you know you're growing? How do you know you're actually excelling in this thing? How do you know you're becoming a better leader? How do you know when you can actually negotiate your or for your promotions? And how do you do like performance review? So these things need to be tracked and kept record of it, so that is facts make you valuable is undeniable. So always keep those track record. Next slide. So ask for opportunity, don't wait for it. So sometimes as a woman, we tend to wait for things to happen to us. So I would say this thing needs to stop. We need to start to request for leadership roles. We need to start requesting for new project, and just kind of have that visibility for opportunity, and manage how your career set goals. I myself switched my career role so many like time, just because, if opportunities are not given to me, and I know that particular company is no longer helping me with my personal growth, I would move on to the next opportunity because I want to grow. I want to excel in life. I have goals with myself, and I would not stick around just because it's comfortable. I feel like sometimes comfortability does not help you grow. So you need to also take that bold risk to be able to be like, okay, in the next 2 years, I want to be here. In the next 3 years, I want to do this. So if I want to do these things, what are some opportunities can I ask for it? And if it's not available here, where can I go to find it? That's what you need to also do. And people can only support your growth if they know where your direction is. So the more clear you are with your direction, the better it is for your mentors, for your colleagues to be able to help you to achieve and reach there. Next slide. Advocate for yourself. I think like a very key thing as a woman, we always need to advocate for ourselves, whether it's asking for fair pay, equal treatment, bringing data, market sale range, being very clear, and then also have self-advocacy. It's not only about being difficult, but it's also about being professional. And that's something that we need to keep in mind when we are talking about advocating for ourselves. Next slide. And lead with integrity. I feel like as a woman leader, we can be reliable and solution oriented. We can also like deliver consistent high performance quality, and sometimes we have to own our mistakes, because we're human, we're not perfect all the time, but it's also acknowledging that certain mistakes happen, but there's also learning opportunity, learning curve that we need to do, and always excel with getting noticed and support other women. I feel like for me, that's a very very key thing, is like always uplifting and mentoring other fellow women is great, because when we uplift ourselves, we build a strong community, we go further, because we are the generation of the new aunties. So let's help the new generation to also, the next generation to do better. And how we could do that is by setting examples, is by becoming a champion of becoming those women who help other women and supporting each other. And collaboration is in strength and representation. When one woman rise, well, I think we all rise, because that kind of, let's say if Shinke rise today, Shinke might be able to pull Nibble in, pull me in, and things like that. That's how we rise in this economy, is by being ally for ourselves. Next slide. And mastering emotional intelligence, I already talked about this earlier, but this is very very key thing. I feel like sometimes, especially when we are at workplaces, most people be like, oh, she's so emotional, da, 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 da. But no, we need to master our emotional intelligence. We need to navigate with pressure and calmness. We need to lead with empathy and clarity. We also need to manage conflict professionally, because emotional intelligence, not only does it build trust, but it also helps build respects and influence. We don't need to crash out in every little thing. So that's one thing I would say. Next slide. And yeah, and if you really find this slide very important, you can, because also can check us out at info at avesedigital.com, or you can visit our website www.avesedigital.com, and feel free to reach out to me by email, or you can also watch the on-demand replay of all our masterclass. Is going to be available on Avese Digital YouTube. Do you guys have any questions before we depart? Any insights, any comment? Feel free to unmute your mic, and yeah. And thank you both, Nibble and Shinke, today for contributing to this masterclass.
Thank you, Nisi, for initiating the Masterclasses initiative, bringing myself onto it. And thank you, Nibble, for providing your own insight earlier.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Nikki, for hosting this. And I hope we continue to have more. It's really wonderful to see women sort of try to stand in the gap for each other. Women try to build each other up. A lot of times people say, oh, women like to tear each other down. So to see women working together, there's nothing better than that, because it sort of helps all of us. When one of us wins, all of us win. Even without intentionally doing it, because if another woman says that, oh my God, Nisi has made it, it means I can make it. So thank you for shining your light.
You're most welcome, Yubal. You're most welcome. And definitely feel free to also, like, if there's any like a particular topic that you feel like we need to cover, or even like from your own side, like let's say there's something that, very important from your side that you wanted to cover, we can always collaborate and kind of bring it as a masterclass where we can deliver that session and you can speak on topic that matters to you. And then for my own self, if there's any particular tech related conversation that you guys would love for me to do, even like a walkthrough sessions and things like that, we can host like a whole hour masterclass going through some of these channels, some of the tools that we use, to help with businesses and grow. Because at the end of the day, it's like the more we share this knowledge, the better it is for us to kind of like, help and grow our business and skill. Yeah, and thank you guys so much. You guys have a wonderful day, and thank you all for attending. As well as I want to thank our partners, Found Excellence Foundation for South Sudan for being a part of this last 3 months masterclass. And this is our finale for the collaborations we had with Excellency Foundation for South Sudan. And also for all our participants, for our students, thank you so much. And I'll make sure that I send all the recap email. And once we have the new date for the new masterclass collaborations and any new partners that we're gonna be collaborating with, I will send an email as well to out as an email blast. Have a great day, guys. Take care.
Goodbye.
Oh, she left.